What's up, fellas?
Not much. Not much, man.
Another night.
Yeah.
I was thinking tonight, let's get freaky.
Yeah?
Yeah, man.
What are we talking?
I don't know,
like,
man.
what do I got to put a dress
Not
on?
what you
or
guys are
something?
thinking out there. So we ended up giving a little teaser at the last episode, talking about ghosts and our experiences. Whether you believe it or not, there's some shit that goes down. Some bump in the dark shit, man.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that go bump in the night. I've experienced them. I think everybody in here has experienced them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so...
Yeah, let's start off with that. Let's start off with one of your
guys,
experiences.
Go ahead.
Let's see. So, the first experience I had, I'd say I was probably like 9 or 10, something like that. My dad got remarried to a lady, and her name was Jane. So he married this lady named Jane, and she lived in a house in Edmond, Oklahoma. And the lady that lived in the house before she lived in the house died in the house.
Ooh.
So it was one of those weird situations, and like I had heard about it, my dad's wife Jane, she had talked about it. And
Wait. Let me stop you there. So did your dad know that there was a person who died in the house before he bought the house?
So he didn't buy the house; it was already her house.
Oh, it was already her house.
Yeah, it was already her house. So she was already living there when my dad met her.
And how did she find out that there was a person that died in there?
I'm not sure how she found out, but she knew about it, and she had experiences. Her, my stepbrother, and my stepsister had all had experiences. Like one of the experiences that they had that I had before I had my experience. This is one of the stories I was told. So my sister at the time, her name was Tracy. So Jane and Tracy were painting her room, and her room was in the basement of the house. So yeah, right. So
lucky her.
Yeah, exactly. And dude, that fucking side note on that basement, anytime you walk down there, it was like the fucking freakiest. It had windows. It was like one of those you see in a movie where it's like you go down into the basement, but then there's like windows lining, all the sides of it, so you can see like, ground level.
Yeah. People's feet walking by.
Yeah, you can see people walking by and stuff. But even in the middle of day when you were down there, it was like dark and cloudy, kind of like that. Just had that real, dude, I get goosebumps just fucking thinking about it. But they were down there painting her room one night, and from what they said was while they were painting the room, there were hangers that were in the closet that flew out of the closet and hit the wall and landed on the bed. And, of course, that's going to freak anybody out, you know what I mean? But they still live there. Another time Jane was cooking, and they had her house, the way it was set up, the island in the middle of the kitchen was where the stove was.
Mm-hmm.
So the stove and the range top was on the island, and then if you turned directly behind that was the sink, and that looked out the window that looked out into the yard. So Jane was cooking one day, and she had turned around and she was doing dishes, looking out the window. And as she's looking out the window, she felt somebody like tug on her robe. And she turned around, nobody was there, but the fucking range was on fire.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was like a warning, one of those things like, hey, turn around, your stuff caught fire or whatever. But so we'd heard these stories. My dad told a story one night where he was asleep there, and he heard somebody like walk up to the bed and stop, but he never saw anybody there, or he never knew anybody was there. But he didn't say he saw anything either at the time, so he didn't know. My experience, though, was one night I was staying there, and in the room that I always stayed in, it was kind of in the middle of the hallway had like 3 bedrooms. It was like left, center, right, and the room I was in was the center room. And so it looked out in the hallway, and immediately out of the doorway entrance in the hallway was an armoire. So there's like a big armoire there with the mirror. And I was in the bed. I was asleep. I woke up, and I looked straight out because where I was laying, I could, turn kind of to my left, and I looked straight out the doorway. And where the armoire was, there was a lady standing there, all white. She was standing there in like a robe or something. It was a robe. I couldn't really tell what it looked like, but it was definitely a white robe. And she's just standing, staring straight into the arm wall. And I'm, I see her and I'm like thinking to myself, like, no way, that's not the ghost. But it is the ghost. I knew it was. I just had that feeling. And so as I'm staring at her, my first instinct is like, I gotta know. So I just went psst, like that, and it fucking turned, and it turned and looked at me. So it's like this, and it just went like this and looked over its shoulder. Its body didn't turn, but its head turned and looked over its shoulder at me. And the face was all white, but it was like black here and here,
Oh,
and
shit.
I immediately was like,
how far away was that?
15 feet.
15 feet?
Yeah.
So you got really good look.
I got, it was like looking at somebody standing in your doorway, when I was in the bed. And I'm like, holy shit. And in that room, there were two double beds. And I never wanted to sleep in that room by myself because of the ghost. So my dad would sleep in that room, but he'd sleep in the other bed. And that night he was in there, and I immediately saw it. And, I'm like, I go, psst, it turns and looks at me. I'm fucking freaking out. And it's just that weird, awkward moment where I'm like staring at it and it's staring at me, but it's not doing anything. It's just looking at me. And as I'm staring at it, I'm like, Dad. And I get my dad to wake up, and I'm like, he's like, what's going on? I'm like, the ghost is staring at me right now in the hallway. Yeah. And my dad's like, huh? And I'm like, the ghost is looking at me, staring at me right now in the hallway. And he's just like, I don't see anything. Go back to bed. And so he just kind of rolls back over, and I'm fucking freaking. So the only thing I can think of to do at this point, like pretty much just like close my eyes, throw the sheets over my head. And I do that. And I don't know how long it was necessarily, but I pull the sheets back over and it was gone.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the first experience that I'd had, but that's so vivid. Like the whole, I'll never forget. It was like the slow motion, like when she turned to look, and it's just, you see like the whole body movement. Mm-hmm. And then when her face turned to look, and it was literally like two black eye sockets and like, kind of blurry blackish area here at the mouth.
Kind of like a movie. Huh?
Yeah, it really was like a movie, and it freaked me the fuck out, And
how old were you?
Like I said, like 9, maybe.
Oh, okay. 10. So
yeah.
Way before the.
yeah. This was
all the venturing and stuff.
Yeah. This was whenever I still had the third eye open from being a kid.
Ah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey, you guys believe in that theory too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I mean, I've always kind of believed it, but then again, like starting at that, I was at a young age when I saw that ghost. So at that point, there was nothing that deterred me or changed my thought process of it.
Yeah, we believe that before a kid loses their teeth, that their third eye is open.
Yeah. See, I've never had a real like theory about like how when that eye closes, but I definitely think it's closed. You know? I think even for me as an adult, I get times where I have that weird feeling. But it was like when I was a kid and I had that weird feeling, I would see something or you experience something.
Yeah.
Now it's like if I ever get that weird feeling, it's just like I just have that awkward feeling sitting in a room. You know what I mean?
You think it's because of the logical mind takes over at some point?
I think it probably has something to do with that. Adult brain activity is so much different too.
Yeah.
Receptiveness and
we're not as open.
Yeah, exactly. You start getting set in ways. You close yourself off to certain things. Your ideas. I mean, even like at a magic trick, right? As a kid, that guy pulling a rabbit out of the hat. The first time you fucking see that, it's real magic. Yeah, you know what I mean? And
it's power.
Yeah, it's real power. So I kind of think it's the same. I mean, even with that, I've had other experiences since then, and I'll tell the other story later. I'm imagining, but I mean, as I was older, I definitely saw another one. I've had other experiences with like Deer Lady, which is a whole nother.
Wow.
I mean, that's
I've never even heard that.
Deer Lady.
The legend of Deer Lady.
Deer Lady is a fucking Native American legend that, depending on who you ask, same thing. It's bullshit. It's fake. It's not real. That shit is real.
No.
You know what I mean? It's just an iteration of a ghost story handed down to people, but from Native American descent. You know
Wow.
what I mean? And
Why don't you tell us a little about it?
well, so the idea behind Dear Lady, I guess, was like a friend of mine that was Indian. He told me about it. Like the first time I heard about it was from him, and he heard about it from his dad. So the legend behind Dear Lady, I mean, I'm sure there's so many stories out there, but the one that I was told was that Dear Lady was a Native American spirit, like a medicine woman, pretty much, right? And she was an old lady. Somehow she died. I don't know. However, after she died, she didn't ever really die. So when they would have powwows or they'd have get-togethers, the spirit and the energy would invoke, or the energy of the powwow would invoke the spirits. And so it would end up arousing her and conjuring her and bringing her back. But the legend was that she would come in and sit in on the powwows, and she wouldn't ever look at anybody, and she'd never say anything. She would just sit there, like an old feeble lady wrapped up in a blanket or whatever. And if you saw her, you were never supposed to make eye contact with her. And if anybody noticed her, you're not supposed to acknowledge it, but you're also not supposed to ignore it. You know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to know that she's there, but you're not supposed to like interact with her in any way.
So what are you supposed to do then?
So you pretty much just like try to get away, but you just act like if you're sitting next to her, you just act like pretend she's not there. Don't look at her.
But then get the fuck out.
Yeah, just try to get out of there. But the the thing was if you made eye contact with her, I don't remember what the story. If you turned to stone or you turned to wood, it was something like that.
Wow.
It was like one of those powerful stories. But the versions that I came to know about, it was always in Oklahoma, where Lake Thunderbird was. There's always like it used to be Native American land, so there's all this talk that it was parts of it were burial grounds for Native Americans. And I mean, there's stories like all the way back. I've had friends' parents and my parents that used to say going down there and you'd hear kids playing in the woods, or you'd see kids running around, or hear kids laughing and stuff, like like Native American kids or whatever. But I'd several times we've been out in that same area.
Wait,
and
Native Americans kids make different sounds, or how did they identify?
I mean, just because it's like the Indian burial ground, what I mean?
Okay.
So it's supposed to be the Indian ghosts, as opposed to, I get it could be any ghost.
Could be any ghost,
Yeah,
right?
it could be any ghost.
Man, these people,
these
they're
ghosts,
fucking racist bastards.
Yeah, I know, right? Ghosts are all inclusive, I
Them
guess.
Indian
right?
babies.
Yeah, right. Don't get them Indian ghosts, man. But so going out there, we'd be out there, and you'd hear people like whispers or stuff in the bushes, and we'd always try to take people out there that had never been out there, and you kind of walk them out a little ways, and you try to get them lost, so they don't know what the fuck they're doing, they don't know where they're at.
You guys are sick,
Oh,
man.
dude, we used to do all sorts of fucked up shit.
Fuck?
But I mean, man, we saw, I've seen things that like looked like it looked like a bobcat kind of mixed with like a deer almost. That's just, it's in the woods. You see it, you hear it, it's making noises, but you don't know what the fuck it is. You'll be sitting there and it's dead quiet, and all of a sudden you hear like somebody's walking up and just snaps sticks right in your ear.
Really?
Like they're right next to you.
Oh,
Snap,
shit.
like crack. You know what I mean? Like if you were to pop your fingers really out, or your knee pops. I mean, dude, so many of these just little experiences like that.
So your plan was to take some new guy out there, scare the shit out of him. But but then the shit backfired on you, huh?
I mean, there's several times. One time I took a girl out there, and it was just me and this girl, and I thought, it'd be a cool spot to go. It's nice and quiet. You can see the stars and stuff. But then I start telling her about Dear Lady. You know what I mean?
Oh, shit.
And so I don't know if it was real or not, but she had to pee or whatever. So she like went, a little ways away from me so she could go pee. And all of a sudden she comes running back just screaming. And she's like crying and screaming. And I'm like, what happened? And she's like, there's somebody over there. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, there's somebody right there in the bushes and they're talking about me. I heard them whispering about me. You know, I'm like, there's nobody out here. And she's like, bullshit. There's people right over there. Well, of course, we like go over kind of in that area. There's nobody there. You know what I mean? But all that kind of shit out there, that was common occurrences. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's in Oklahoma. You know what I mean?
Why the fuck would you be talking about shit like that out in the woods, man?
Yeah.
That's just like asking for it, dude.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what we did, man. We would do all sorts of fucked up shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I went camping. The first time I went camping with Meng and them. And I think Kabal was there. And they started to venture into the territory of telling ghost stories and stuff. And he was like, no, got a rule. Like, when we go out camping in the woods, we don't talk about that stuff, man. I was like, that's a fucking good rule, man.
Yeah.
It makes more sense than going out into areas like that and talking about getting hacked up into pieces, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah. I don't want to think about that stuff, man.
Like, I mean, we used to go out there, too, and just always, like, you know, what if we saw aliens or made alien contact? You know, you always think all this shit. A, you're a kid.
Right.
You know, plus, like I said, plenty of people that I grew up with in Norman believe in Deer Lady just because they've been out there and they've, you know, seen or had some unusual experience. But again, I mean, it's just like any other ghost story. I mean, probably anybody too that doesn't believe that's going to listen to this think this is just a crock of shit.
I think I can handle aliens.
I think
I can handle aliens.
I think that would be one of the coolest things to ever see.
Well, I mean, I just in general, like talking about it, I don't get goosebumps about it, but
yeah,
freaking ghosts, man, that's on a different level, dude.
Yeah. Well, ghosts. I mean, it's weird, right? Because it's like even in just normal death, you still like hold your family members that passed away near and dear to you. You know.
What's up, Ty?
Hey,
come join the podcast, man.
Yeah, you're on the podcast now.
You are officially on the Tomato Cans podcast.
Welcome to the Tomato Cans podcast. What's up?
Doing? What are you doing, man?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Are you in California?
Just drinking.
Yeah, I'm in California. Where's everybody else? What's up, bro?
Oh, Cherry Valley.
You're in CV, huh?
What's up, Bob?
Hey, you guys listening to the podcast?
Bobby! What's up, Bob?
What's up?
What's up, brother?
Carol Baskin.
Carol Baskin.
Hey.
Carol fucking Baskin.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Podcast got hijacked.
Yeah. Podcast. Hey,
Yeah.
it's all to put in work, man.
It's with you
Right.
guys,
Build
bro.
our fan base.
It's with
Right.
you guys.
Right.
Okay.
Talking to the California fans
Oh, here. Hey.
live over the
Oh, look at this.
interwebs video phone.
Oh, you like it?
Oh yeah. This podcast is brought to you by weed.
Right side.
So how you been, guys, man?
Doing good.
Been good. We're just talking about ghosts.
You got a ghost story?
What are you guys doing a podcast for?
For you guys, man. We do it all for you guys. Do it all for the fans.
I'm in Cherry Valley, man.
You got a phone? Go to YouTube.
Go to YouTube. YouTube,
Yeah.
Tomato Cans channel.
I know whose name on YouTube.
Man, I'm not
Fucking
texting
drunk,
to you,
man.
man.
Oh man.
All
All
right.
right. We'll call you back. We'll call you back
Yeah.
later, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So,
That's great.
Yeah. Sorry,
So,
guys.
so like I was saying before, like it's weird because you know you still want to preserve the idea of you know your dead relatives afterwards, or you still think about them. You know, you keep them in memory. We have funerals for them. You know, whatever, some sort of memory for them. But the idea of them being a spirit or a ghost is just like an uncomfortable feeling to think about for most people. You know what I mean? But I guess also, along with not being religious, I've always just kind of thought that your spirit, it's always kind of a part of what's around you. You know, even if you pass, like our energy or whatever, there's so much more to us than just our physical being. Right. That energy has to go somewhere. Our soul, whatever you consider your soul or whatever, it all is part of something more than just our physical body, right? So I've always kind of believed that, you know, I don't know why not everybody becomes a ghost, but somehow, some way, there are triggers or certain things that set in motion the ability or the inability to move on. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is, but it's across all walks of life, all religions, races, whatever you look at it. I mean,
yeah, everybody has some kind of manifestation of the afterlife.
Right. And I know it's kind of weird too, because you guys, I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit, you know, just outside of this kind of a setting. But for you guys, I mean, as for the Asian culture and stuff, you guys kind of embrace the idea of spirits more, I think.
Yeah. I think not all Asians, but Hmong specifically, the old tradition, I mean, now it's kind of split. Everybody's gone several different ways, but traditionally, the Hmong traditional religion is more along the lines of ancestralism. But we don't pray to a god, we pray to our ancestors. Right. You know, we ask them for help, we ask them for guidance, we ask them for protection. You know, I do it frequently, like whenever I don't feel right, whenever I'm scared, worried, or even when I'm trying to strive for something, you know, I often call out to my grandmother saying, you know, this is what I'm looking for, or, you know, right now I don't feel right, you know, it's troubling times, I'm scared, you know, would you please come watch over us, make sure that nothing bad happens to us. So there's several things. Law school, you know, when I was trying to get into law school, you remember that whole ordeal. It wasn't an easy thing for me to even to get accepted. So I prayed to my grandmother and I was like, you know, help me get into law school. And if you get me into law school, you know, I promise I'll do my best. And, you know, but it's not a one-way street. Like, I'm not just constantly asking for stuff too, you know, and then I'll offer her things. Like I offered a pig, I think. I offered a pig and 2 chickens, you know, in her name just to help me. So things like that, that's like traditionally, that's more along the lines of what we believe in. And then it bleeds over into the more supernatural, you know, we still believe in shamanism and stuff. And I don't really have like the inside scoop on what goes on there. I think my mom understands it a lot more because my grandfather was a shaman and her oldest sister was a shaman.
Okay.
But from what I understand, you go into a trance, you place a veil, the shaman places a veil over themselves. And, you know, there's a series of chants or songs or something that gets you into a trance state. And it's really weird because it's usually identified with an elderly person or an older person. And they start to, you know, the bodies start to shake and they go into this chanting state of mind. And according to the stories that have been told, like all that process leads them and guides them into the spirit world. And then once they get there, they interact with the spiritual beings on the other side. And depending on what they're after, like they'll do a shaman session to help heal people, to help get rid of bad spirits, to get rid of you know, just negative energy. The more skeptical ones, I don't tend to believe, are the ones who try to look into the future and things like that. But they'll do any. And there's shady people in everything, right? But I know that from the few times I talked or I've heard of my aunt describe it, you're basically asking about what the person that came to you, what their problem is. So if you're sick, then you talk to the spirit world and the people in the spirit world, and they'll say things, and they'll tell you, and then she'll come back and she'll just explain, okay, this is what I've been told, and it's never like a direct thing, right? It's not like, oh, he's got lung cancer or something, or it's always, there's like always a backstory, like 2 months ago this person went to this place and they crossed paths with this bad spirit that followed them home, and now they're feeling sick all the time because it's negative energy.
Right.
So in order to fix them, so our thing is ghosts live in the other world, and it's their commerce is you can burn the paper, the gold plated money.
Yeah.
You can burn those, or you can offer food and chicken, cows, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the severity. Like if somebody's really sick and they come to my aunt, and she'll go and do her thing, and she'll come back and she might say, okay, well, you need to sacrifice this type of animal, and then and then you tell me, and then I'll go back and I'll say, okay, this is what you guys wanted, and this is what they presented, and they fulfilled what you're asking for, so please leave them alone now. So it's that type of ordeal. But man, I mean, it gets pretty crazy sometimes.
Yeah, that's it's tough to distinguish the line there, even, right?
Yeah, I mean, being so skeptical myself, like I believe in the most. I believe in person I believe in is my grandmother. So I always pray out to her, even though my grandfather is a far more prominent person when he was alive. Like I never call out to him, for whatever reason. It's always my grandmother. None of my aunts or uncles that have passed away or anybody else. It's always just to her. Yeah. I mean, I feel like my bond is the strongest with her, and I don't feel like it's like, in life, I don't approach people that I'm just casual with, what I mean? I don't like ask them for help or anything. I have to be deeply rooted in a relationship with this person before I would even think about asking them for help.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things.
Right. How about you, Twee? Do you follow any of the same? I mean, do you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I grew up with it. I saw it. Yeah, it's pretty much what he said.
Bring that mic close.
It's pretty much what he said.
Who do you pray to?
My grandmother.
Yeah.
That's what I pray to.
How about you, Lay?
Grew up Christian. Went to Lutheran. Yeah, went to Lutheran church pretty much first 20 years. And did I ever tell you guys a story about when my brother when my brother came here? Well,
no, do tell, man.
Well, I had.
It was at my house.
No. This is the story where I went up there. One night I had this dream. It was like it's about 2006. So my mom passed away in 2002, and I moved out here. I think we were at
my house.
Your second house.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Phoenix house?
Yeah, the Phoenix house. Yeah. Okay. And I think I had this really like vivid dream. I was back home in the house I grew up in, and I was visiting, but it was as if like my mom had never died, but she was still with us.
Okay.
I was visiting. We were all one big happy family again, and it was time for me to go back to Arizona, and I was going to miss my flight. It was like, it's going to be in 2 hours, and we were going to make the airport. And my mom says to me, hey, why don't you take your brother with you guys and drive down there? And I remember that I woke up, and like a week later, that's when I flew up there and I talked to them, and we drove down.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So that's kind of, that's a story how Andrew came out there, because he was out there. He was just kind of floating. He wouldn't kind of know what to do.
Did you tell him about the dream as a convincing point?
No, I didn't tell him at all.
Really?
Yeah. And so, I don't think I told anybody. I think just you guys.
Wow, man.
Yeah. So that's the story that's why it was like really quick, like I had that dream, and I kind of just knew that maybe that's what I should do. So I called them, make arrangements, and then A week later, flew out. We drove down. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, man.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, I believe that was a direct message, man.
Yeah.
Dreams are a fickle thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's dreams like you dream every night, but you don't remember shit. But
Yeah.
there's those dreams like that dream,
Yeah.
you know, that you. When Tainu passed away, this was my aunt, the shaman. When she passed away, we had gone on a little family trip up to Twin Arrows up there to take the kids to go swim in the indoor and to go play a snowball. And on the way back, I remember I was fucking tired as hell, and I was driving, and you know how you kind of like slip into daydream mode and stuff. And I was still capable of driving, but I was tired, and I kind of went lulled into that semi daydream mode, and I saw her. And I knew at the time, like I knew she passed away already. And I knew that I was driving and I was still conscious and still be able to function and everything. But also, I kind of fell into the state of, what's that called when you can kind of control your dreams? Lucid.
Yeah,
Lucid dreaming. So I was kind of in that state too. And I was like, hey man, you know what? I'm seeing her right now. I want to take advantage, you know, like I want to take control of this situation. So I was talking to her and I was like, oh, you know, I know that you're dead, but I'm happy to see you. Like, but there's got to be a reason why you're here. Is there something that you want to tell me? And she said to me, she said, the person that I worry about most in the world is your cousin No. Like, he doesn't have any direction in life. And, she feels that, she said to me that she says if there's anybody that can probably help sway him, it's you. So I know that you're going to go down to the funeral, and I hope that you can talk to him for me, you know? So I put a lot of thought into it. And, you know, I caused some issues for him growing up. I don't think I can ever live past that one. I'll tell you about that later. Maybe a different episode.
Man.
But me personally, I didn't do it maliciously. Like, I always looked up to him. He's an extremely, extremely artistic person. Drawing, painting, music, whatever. If it's artistic, he has an exceptional eye for it. So I thought about it, and I was like, well, how can I help him, man? How can I really help him? And I started, like, I was really interested in getting into epoxy at that time. Like, I really wanted to do it for myself too. So I was like, hey, you know what? Why don't I pitch the idea that if I start an epoxy company and we'll come work together? Because I know, like, I can figure out how to do it. It's not that difficult. But I knew without a doubt that if I put epoxy into his hands, it'll blow up. Like, he'll do shit that no one can ever think of.
Right.
You know? So before I pitched it to him, I talked to his brother, Mick. And I was telling Mick, I think I was a lot closer in age with Mick. So I'm pretty close with Mick, more so than with No. But I was like, hey, Mick, so I don't want to seem like I'm just bullshitting, you know. I really don't want to, especially about something like this, you know. And I told him, I can't say for 100% that it's true, but I believe it's true. I believe that I talked to your mom, and I believe that she came to me and she wanted me to say something, to try to do something, you know. And I didn't promise her that I would get it done, but I did say that I would talk to him at the very least. So I told Mick about my idea, and Mick was like, hey, man, you know what? It's great that you acknowledged that you saw that. And because he is who he is, the son of a lady that's really prominent in that belief system, he didn't knock me for it. He was like, hey, man, I totally get it. You, in your mind, you believe you see something. So it's no different than it being real or not. In your mind, you believe it. And, you know, he goes, yeah, I know you. I know that you wouldn't try to bullshit, especially at my mom's funeral, something
Right.
about her,
Right.
you know. But he also laid it to me straight too. He was like, okay, so you have to understand something, that he comes from a perspective that's not privy to everybody. You know, that's his brother. He knows the ins and outs. He was like, you can do something for him, but it doesn't mean that he's gonna do it for himself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that that's their struggle, their whole adult lives, is that even though I have this gifted cousin, that he doesn't, I don't know if it's a confidence issue or if it's just a lack of motivation issue, but he always seems to halfway in something and then back right out of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It could be fear or whatever the case is. But, you know, he laid it out to me straight, and he was like, hey, man, you said that you would do something, and you have my blessing to do it. I'm not going to knock you. I'm not going to say that you're a fraud or whatever. But just know that even if he comes out there and you do something for him, don't be, don't be surprised if he backs out on you halfway through or something, you know?
So did you actually talk to him and stuff?
I think I don't know. I did talk to him, but I think that I may have blown the issue up a little bit too big.
Oh yeah.
Like I might have hyped it a little bit, you know. I think just the idea of starting a company, because so here was my pitch, and this is what I really would have followed through with. I told him, look, it's not that costly to start an epoxy company, right? So here's what I'll do. I'll start it off, all the business end of things, I'll work it out. Like I'll figure it out. I'll get our suppliers. I'll do all the bills and everything. And while we're still working together, we'll just chop everything minus cost. We'll just chop everything down the line. When we get a job, we'll both go do it. I'll help you out. The idea is to set it up to a point where you can manage it and you can get on your own, and then I'll just back away, and then it's yours. And he was like, oh, well, that's a really good idea, but why me? I was like, look, if you see what these idiots on YouTube are doing with it, like they're creating countertops that look like stone, like marble, whatever, you name it, brass, metal, anything. I was like, if you put your mind into it, you're going to create shit that nobody is going to be able to replicate because you have that vision, And I know that if we do this thing together, we'll be leaps and bounds above everybody else. So he thought about it, and I think that just the idea of him owning his own business someday,
scared him a little bit.
It was a little bit too much for him to take on, and I was like, I was totally upfront with him too. I was like, hey man, if you don't ever want to take it over, I'll because I truly feel that it's going to be something that's profitable, and I'll stick it through with you all the way till the end. If you want to someday just call it quits, I can't do it. We'll just sell the business,
right?
Did
you when you approached him about it, did you explain to him that you saw his mother, like in a vision?
I did. Yeah. I wanted to be completely upfront with him. I told him that, and I told him, come, you can live with me. You don't have to worry about bills or anything. I'll take care of everything until we start getting this thing going, and we'll figure it out how to do it together. But I know for a fact that once we start putting that shit on something, you're going to be able to create stuff that'll blow everybody away.
Right.
And because I have that much belief in his artistic abilities, but I mean, it didn't come to fruition for whatever reason. That's fine. I'm cool with it. And I held my end of the bargain.
Yeah.
It's all I can do, but.
So your aunt's not still haunting you, at least?
No.
That's good.
She definitely does not haunt me. But I don't know if she would too, I don't think that she's that type of person.
I always wondered. I've wondered many times, like, if I have, guardian angel or somebody looking over me, I don't know exactly how you might put that. But, you get into those situations. There's been situations where you get that, like, that gut instinct, or you get that kind of that voice in the back of your head that just says something to you, like something's out of place, or, go with your gut instinct, right? A lot of times it seems like that gut instinct is intuition, but where does that come from? You know what I mean? And
Right. Well, it's weird. There's a weird parallel between the woohoo crystal believing system and the Hmong shamanism system. Is that shamans, when you become a shaman, you're visited by two teachers, or as what's been told to me and from what I understand is that you are confronted by two spirits, and with the whole New Age belief system, you always have two angels that protect over you. I always thought that was a weird parallel. Why twos, right?
Yeah. I don't know, man. Supernatural stuff, spiritual stuff, it's it gets pretty, it's hard to say when it's questionable, or like you said, what's to believe, what's not to believe.
I think for each one of us, there's a realm of possibility, right?
Right.
And once you go step outside of that realm, then it becomes a little bit like I can totally buy into the other world, different dimension or whatever you want to call it, like because like you were saying earlier, we're all part of the energy of the universe,
right?
Something happens to us, right?
Well, and that's kind of think about it a little bit, touching on that, like that fourth dimension or go beyond that. I mean, I've heard some, I don't remember the exact number, but I've heard like we can have up to like some ridiculous number of dimensions around us.
I've heard like 15.
Yeah,
I've heard 15.
Say, like I didn't want to say I was like 12 or whatever it was, but you hear that stuff, and I mean, I don't know, but the thing is like, how do you become in tune with yourself to be able to frequent another dimension or another plane, and with certain religions or certain groups, you have the shaman or the medicine man or whatever it might be, and it's hard. It takes a lot as a person to believe that somebody else believes that,
right?
As much as try to buy in, I guess too, though, if you have visions and you've had them since you're a kid or something, nobody else can explain that to you.
Well, the thing that kind of gets me is I was trying to get to this earlier and I lost track or I veered off, but shamans tend to be older and more advanced in age, and not really physically active people, but when they go into their trance state, they'll go for hours in, just chanting and shaking and doing their whole bit, and so that to me, there's got to be some kind of something beyond understanding what's going on there.
Yeah. So I told a nice little ghost story, but Lay, you got a ghost? You got any good stories?
Yeah, about 10 years ago, I went to Laos with my dad and my grandpa, and this must have been like the third or fourth night there. We drove about 6 hours north of the capital, and we stayed in this village area where we have some family up there, and I was sharing this room with my dad. There's 2 twin beds. This was about 2:30 in the morning around that time. Complete darkness, pitch black. My he's snoring, he's falling asleep. I'm still not used to the time change yet, so I'm just kind of laying there, tossing and turning, and then I hear this old lady at the door, like really kind of faint, and like she says, like it's like boy, put the door open. I was like, there's nobody else. Like,
there can't be anybody outside at this time, right?
Yeah, there can't be anybody out there. So she kept saying that, and I just, you get that body tingling of like something, it's not right, something's out there, and like I had my iPod, I put my earphones in, and I just like opened the covers, and I was like, yep, didn't hear. I just pretend I didn't hear anything. And it's just,
Wow.
I didn't sleep the whole night. I didn't sleep the whole night from the morning.
It would have been a good time to wake up your dad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or open the doors.
No.
Next time you gotta go, hey, psst.
Yeah. It works every time.
Yeah,
Works
so
every
yep,
time.
when it's the morning, so my dad woke up, I was like, all right. He's like, sleep? Like, nope, sleep at all.
Yeah, I have that problem, man. No matter where I go, if it's a new place,
Yeah.
first night I never sleep.
Yeah, I'm bad about that too. And I wonder, like, part of that is, I guess, trying to adjust to that. But then at the same time, it goes along with ever since I can remember believing in ghosts and stuff. I
Mhm.
start thinking about, like, I wonder what's happened in this place or what's been like history around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's always one of those things like I've always wanted to go to like, you know, I guess some of those old west, like the hotels where the ghosts, you know, you can stay in the hotel and there's ghosts
Fuck
there
that.
or whatever.
Fuck
you know?
that.
But it's just you start thinking about like the history of certain places and events or stuff that have happened around there. Like, there's no way that spirits can't be embedded in that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like Civil War. You know, you've seen videos or you hear stories about like those old battlefields. How like at night you can hear people screaming, or you can faintly hear like gunshots or whatever it might be, or something. I mean, even people seeing spirits of soldiers, you know, come walking out and then they just disappear and stuff. But you know, God dang, it blows my mind that there's the possibility for it to not be real, but it is or it isn't. You know, whatever you believe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whatever side of the story you're on, but I don't. No matter what I can say, like I can tell people the story or say that I believe this. You say that you believe that. You can tell people your experiences, and they're kind of like, "Well, okay," but you don't really know if they walk away and they're just thinking, "Oh, that guy's full of shit." You know what I mean?
Right. Well, it's like this little bit in one of my favorite bits in this book, and I'm paraphrasing. I'm going to butcher it, but it was this old man. He's kind of like a magician, just kind of like a rogue dude that travels on his own, and he makes friends with this traveling band of performers, and the leaders of the caravan were this husband and wife couple, and they were sitting by the campfire talking. And the husband and wife were saying something about, well, we shouldn't perform this play because folks in these neck of the woods, they believe in this too much and we might offend them and stuff. And so they got into that conversation about beliefs in the supernatural, and they were like, hey, so what do you believe in, old man? Like, well, it doesn't really matter what I believe in, but let's say this. Obviously, you don't believe in what they believe in. Let's call it like witches. Okay, make it simple. You don't believe in witches. So what if a townsman came and said, hey, I saw a witch in the forest back there. You know, don't go back in there because there's a witch in there. Would you believe him? They're like, hell no, right? Said, well, what if 10 people came? They're like, no, still wouldn't believe. So what if the whole town came and told you? All 250 people that live in this town swear up and down, left and right, that there's a witch in those woods. Would you believe him? And then finally the husband got kind of like irritated. It was like, no, I wouldn't believe him, but what's your freaking point? It's like, well, my point is, if there wasn't a witch in those woods, what do you think it is that's causing all the hysteria? It's like, I don't know, maybe bears or robbers or thief, who knows, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, that's some sensical logic. And if you go to 200 miles south from here, they're going to believe that it's, goblins. And if you go up north, they're going to believe in ogres, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not my real point. My real point is, if 250 people came and told you not to go into the woods, regardless of what you believe in, would you still go into those woods? So the point being, it doesn't really matter what you believe in. Like, don't fuck with, like, something's there. Yeah. Even if it's something that, it might not be something that you believe or don't believe in, but obviously something's there. So don't fucking, why would you go test it?
Right. Yeah, and it's even like at the end of that last podcast, like you were saying, man, if somebody were to tell you like that house is haunted,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and even if you don't believe, how many of those people that don't believe are still going to go try to stay the night in that fucking
Very
house?
few.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Yeah,
You know?
right.
You don't believe, but yet there's something that says like, fuck that. I
Yeah.
still don't want to go in
Yeah.
there. You know?
Regardless of what your logical mind
Yeah.
says, your body's gonna tell you, man. The hairs on your back of your neck and your arms are gonna start standing straight up.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely, and there's that kind of thing, right? Your other senses start kind of kicking in,
Mm-hmm.
besides just besides like your sight, your sense of smell and touch. But then even, those get heightened, and any little noise now all of a sudden gets extreme.
Yeah.
If you see something move, now all of a sudden, fuck, that had to have been something, even though it might have been a mouse. You know what I mean? But dude, people just, I mean, it's one of those things, you don't understand it. You can't understand it. And not everything in this world is meant to be understood.
Yeah. You know what? Every time I buy a house, that's the first thing I do is when I go into a house that I'm thinking about buying, I open up the senses, walk around, and my hair starts standing up.
Yeah.
Nope, I'm not getting this house, man. I told my daughter that same thing. She's a couple months back when she was shopping for homes. And I was like, when you go in there, if you feel weird, don't even think about buying this. And sure enough, like one of the first few homes she went into, she couldn't even finish the tour. Like she was so freaked out,
That's weird. And being like having a home inspector's license. I keep just waiting.
When you said to me, "Hey, let's go do this together," or "You should do it too," and that was one of the first things. I was like, man, like I'll go into some houses and I don't feel right. How am I going to finish the job, man?
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. I haven't come across a house like that yet, where I've had any kind of weird feelings. But you never know, man. I can't. I don't know if I should really say it or not.
Say it.
Yeah.
So,
unfiltered, man.
Well, I don't want to get into the whole thing. Somebody we know, right? I did a home inspection for him, and I did it for him. And when I did it, I did the attic inspection, right? Mm-hmm. And it's always common whenever you leave, you turn the attic light off, you come on down from the attic. I'm 99% sure that I did that.
Mm-hmm.
Just my routine, normal.
Yeah.
Check the attic, turn the light off, come down. So I did the home inspection, didn't think anything of it. Then they called me back like about a week later, maybe a little longer, and they were like, "Hey, you left the attic light on when you did the home inspection. I just noticed it from outside or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, that's funny." I was like, in my head, I'm like, "No, I'm pretty sure I turned it off." But I'm also like, well, maybe I did. My bad. I fucked up, right? So I go back and I meet them at their house like a day later or whatever. And now this time they're with me. And I go to the attic. We go up there. I let them go up because the time before that, I was telling them, "Hey, you had..." Holy fuck, I just thought of something. Ooh, okay, so that was weird. So they had like a stack of stuff in the attic right as you walk up, like you open the hatch, and there was a stack of stuff right there. So like you're not, like you couldn't get over it to get back. I had to like climb over it to get back to check the air handler.
Okay.
I got fucking goosebumps like crazy now. So anyways, I did that the first time. I come back and then I tell him, I'm like, I was like, it's really weird. I was like, the people that lived here before, they like stacked these boxes, but it was like right here, right at the entrance. So you can't get back to the air handler. I had to like go over them to get back to it. Okay, whatever. So I told him that I closed the hatch. He calls me, he says, "Leave the light on." So I meet up with him the next day. Now the two of us are there. We go to the attic, open up the hatch, the light's on. But I let him use my ladder to go up and look in. At first, I'm like, "Hey, you want to go and look in your attic since we have it open?" He's like, "Sure." So he looks in it, and I show him. I'm like, "See, there's those boxes that's like stacked." I mean, it's literally like
2 feet.
2 or 3 boxes stacked up. So on top of trying to get into the attic, you have these boxes right there.
Yeah.
And so I show him that, and he's like, "That's weird." And I was like, "Yeah, that is kind of weird, whatever." So he gets down, and then he's like, "Don't forget to turn the light off." And I was like, we kind of laugh. And so I reach up, I switch the light off, close the hatch, done.
Yeah.
He texts me, this is now probably about a week ago. He texts me, and he's like, "Yo, we turned that attic light off, right? Like 100% for real?" And I was like, "Yeah, we did, because remember, and this is another thing, I hadn't questioned it one bit since that day because we were both there, whatever." So then here I am, he's asking me this, and I'm like, what, did we? But then I recall, I'm like, no, I know I did, because I let you go up, I let you look in the attic, you got down, and then you said, "Hey, don't forget to turn the light off." And we laughed, and then I reached up, I turned it off, and I closed the hatch. And so I told him this, and I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And he's like, "Dude, the attic light's on again."
Oh.
And I was like, "What?" And I'm like, "No fucking way." And he's like, "Yeah, it's on again." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm asking him, I'm like, "Well, that's weird." I'm like, "Have you had any other weird experiences in that house?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh shit." They literally just moved into this house.
Wow.
And he's like, "I was asleep on the couch the other day, and I got woken up by the sound of somebody running by me right by the couch, and nobody was there." And I was like, what the fuck? But the thing that gave me the goosebumps just now when I started really thinking about it was I was thinking, like, A, what if the reason they couldn't sell that house for that long was because it was haunted? And B, what if those boxes were stacked up there because it was like kind of saying, like, don't go into the attic, or don't come up into the attic, especially if the attic light keeps coming on and off, or keeps coming on if you turn it off. You know what I mean? Yeah, that shit's weird.
Wow.
And that was recent, man.
Well, they bought the house anyways?
Yeah, they lived like so that happened. The initial inspection happened before they bought it. Then they bought it.
Yeah. And
then he noticed that it was on again after they were in the house. And then I came back and turned it off. And then a few days later, he texted me again, like, "You sure yeah, 100%,
There was a house that I almost bought. It was in Goodyear. And, was it that? I can't remember. There's 2 houses, because there was one right up Cactus here that I was going to buy in the Goodyear. One of those 2 homes, everything was fine the first time we went through the house. Mm-hmm. But I always go back a second or a third time to go look at the house. And the second time, something didn't feel right to me. But we had put in an offer, and the offer got accepted already. Mm-hmm. Oh, no. So we put in an offer, and then they countered. And then it was at that time, and during the counter, I told the realtor, "Hey, let's go back and look at this house." And during the second walkthrough, I didn't feel right about it. And so, yeah, I was like, I can't remember. No. So we accepted. But there was, how you do the, it's part of the negotiation to fix it, part of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we had requested for everything, because all the agreements were in place already. There were several things wrong after the inspection, and we demanded for this, and this to get fixed. And I remember that the second walkthrough, I didn't feel right, but we had already agreed to a sell price already. So I was looking for a way out, and it was for some dumbass shit too. But I cleared it with the realtor. I was like, "Hey, legally, if they refuse to fix any of these items, we can legally back out, even though we agreed," right? The realtor was like, "Yeah." So, and it had to do with, it was a good home. It had to do with the birds.
Oh, okay.
Like, we drive by several times, because it was the houses in between where we were living at the time and my brother's house. So we drive by all the time, and every time I'd look over and say, "Oh, it's going to be our house." But one time I noticed that there's a fucking lot of pigeons on that roof, right? I was like, why is that? And then I started looking at all the other roof lines. There's no fucking pigeons on any other roof but that roof of that house. started thinking about it some more, and then when we drive back home, we see it. The next time we drove to my brother's house, a fucking lot of birds. You know? Yeah, that was it. That's what triggered the second. That's what triggered me wanting to see the house for the second time. Like, there's got to be some reason why there's so many fucking birds here. And then so I went in, and I didn't get a good feeling about it. And then that's why I was trying to figure out, okay, how can we back out of this without losing earnest money and all this stuff. And it, the inspectors had made note saying that there's a lot of pigeon feces up on the roof, and it could cause whatever kind of damage later on.
Mm-hmm.
That the pigeon needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
It needs to be addressed. So we had put in our request as part of the fix-it stuff to have I don't know what you call it, a bird professional go figure out why there's so many birds on the roof and to resolve it. And to them, they were probably like, this is fucking bullshit. We're not gonna agree to this.
Right.
Fucker.
Yeah.
I got you. That was it. I was like, okay, that's our out. They're not willing to fix this, then I don't want this house anymore, man.
Sorry.
But what do you make of that? Like, one single house out of the whole neighborhood.
I mean, and something like that, you never know. You know what I mean? Like,
could be like a dead cat up there.
Yeah,
right?
it could be something like that. It could be that's just the one spot they all hang out for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know, like I had the fucking yard or the tree in my front yard that I took out. That was like the shitting spot for all the fucking birds.
In Arizona.
I swear, man, my entire street, you go all the way down the street, every side, like all the sidewalks are clean. And then you get to my house and there'd just be like, I would pressure wash it. And like a day later, you couldn't even tell I did anything. Just
That's
shit.
because you had the biggest fucking
I
tree
had
in Arizona.
the
man,
biggest
in your
fucking
front yard.
tree. I hated that. I'm glad I got that thing out of there. Invasive roots.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to get rid of these two out here. But
Yeah.
it's the same tree, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about those roots.
Fucking nappy roots, man.
Nappy
Fuck.
roots.
How long we been going?
Let's see, over one. Yeah, just over one.
Yeah.
1 3. Some.
Well, shit, man.
Yeah. That was a good one. That was a fun one.
That was fun. I still feel like we could still keep talking about.
Probably.
I mean,
I'm enjoying listening.
yeah, right. I was gonna say you lounged out over there, man. Lay had a nice story. I'd like to hear that.
Yeah,
that was
that's
cool.
creepy, man. Both of your stories I've heard before, and it still gave me goosebumps. Man.
You have other ones?
This was back in December.
This December? Past
Oh, this
December?
past December, I tried some 5-HTP.
Right
and-
on. After MDMA.
and I did not have a good response, and I went to lay down in my bed. This was middle afternoon. It was like probably 11, 12.
Wait, what's 5-HTP? Is that a strain?
It's got some kind of like it's supposed to help with like your mood and stuff.
Okay.
And I didn't have a good reaction to it, but I started feeling not good, so I went to lay down, and there was a ceiling fan in the middle of my room, and I was laying down on my right side, and then I swear I saw this person just like jumping up and down in the middle of my room, and I started freaking out.
You saw what?
It was just a person just jumping up and down in the
No fucking way.
And I'm like, is this? I didn't know if it was a reaction to what I was taking, but
Did they make any noise?
They didn't make any noise. I just closed my eyes. I was like, "This is not real."
Wait, you fucking ignored that shit?
Yeah, and then I kind of snapped out of it. I snapped out of it, and then it was gone. Yeah.
Huh.
Jumping like the 1980 Chinese ghost movies. Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it was weird. It was jumping, and sometimes it would look like it was like falling from the ceiling, and then something like that too. But it was kind of
Just going up and in between.
Yeah.
Like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
that's some straight acid shit, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was probably just that it was over the counter stuff. I was just trying just to test it out, but it didn't react well with me. So I don't know if that was.
Have you ever heard of like night terrors? Have you ever heard of night terrors?
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I never experienced one.
I've never had them either. I have a buddy
you're
experience.
talking about when they come and sit on you.
Oh yeah, or it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's like you can't
Oh,
move.
yeah.
and you
Yeah.
see like
I
the
get it from
shadow,
time to time.
like the shadow guy or something.
Yeah, I get
Yep.
it.
That's
I
happened.
normally, right when I open my eye and I can see something, that's when it happens.
Yeah. My buddy, he told me the one that freaked him out the most was like, this is when his one of his daughters was still like a baby in the crib, and so he lived in San Diego at the time. Him and his wife were military. His wife was working, so it was just him and the baby at the house, and he fell asleep, and like he heard some noises or whatever, and he woke up, but he couldn't move. You know, he's like paralyzed in the bed, and it was like something was holding him down, and he said he saw the shadow man came through the door of the bedroom, like came up to him and stared at him in the face, then like left him and went over to the crib where the baby was and was like leaned down, like looking to try to pick up the baby. And he said like the whole time he's like screaming, but he can't make any noise. He's trying to fight it, you know, and it's like he can't move. And he said it's like one of those weird things where it's like the whole body gets tingly. You're kind of like temporary paralysis, and then it's like slowly but surely you can start.
Yeah, they call that sleep paralysis too.
Yeah. So yeah, sleep paralysis, night terrors, you know, whatever. But that shit's fucking. I think that would freak me the fuck out.
I get that from time to time.
I mean, I've never had any. I've had like a couple of out of body experiences, like laying down and like floating over. You know what I mean? And like.
Wow.
Whoop, right. Have you never experienced it?
Yeah. Never had anything like that. Sure be.
I had one time like the furthest one that I had was like, I don't know, I would say maybe like just outside of my room, like above my room, like almost going like if I were to be like roof level of a house. You know what I mean? But it was like I was laying in bed and I felt, you know, you get kind of like a wavy kind of feel, like a lightheaded kind of feeling, you know, and like the next thing I know, it was like I was asleep, but I kind of woke up and I wasn't like in my bed necessarily. I was kind of like above it, but I could like, you know, kind of see myself, and I'm kind of like, oh shit, but I like got further and further up, and before you know it, it was like a sudden movement or something, and it was like quick fall, and then I was like snapped back. You know what I mean? But yeah, I've had that happen a couple times. That's kind of weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, one time I had the sleep paralysis where, I felt that shadow thing came up on me too, and I couldn't move. And once it left, like it went across the room to my brother's room. Like I could hear him, I could hear him something audible in his room. So I woke up and I got up and went to the room, I opened the door, turned on the light, and he was like breathing hard. He's like, "Oh man, thanks for coming." Like, because it's from my room to his room.
Oh shit!
That's fucking freaky.
Yeah.
Wow. See, that's more than coincidence. Man.
Yeah.
Well,
Shit like that.
Non-believers out there.
And you know, and even like my dad, he had a house for a while that was built in like the 30s, right? And it looked like a castle. I mean, it was
Hey,
like,
tell me about the house.
yeah, round rooms, you know, built out of stone and everything, concrete, like cement walls. Like if you wanted to like put something on the wall, you had to drill with a fucking concrete bit into the wall, you know. If it never would have burned down,
right?
You know what I mean? But you know, that house had been around. I mean, it's still around, obviously. You know what I mean? It's just my dad doesn't live there anymore. But there were so many times I lived there for. I mean, my dad owned that house for 15 years, maybe, I think, something like that. And there were times when I'd be in there and I'd get like the weird feeling, you know, but I never saw anything. You
No, I'm good.
Not me.
I'll take one. But you know, I never saw anything, but I'd have like weird feelings, or like, especially upstairs. My room was on one end, and I'd always get a weird feeling. The bathroom for the upstairs was at the other end. So it was like, here's my room. I had to come out my door, walk down this hall. Then here's the bathroom right next to the other bedroom. So the weirdest area for me was always the bathroom / that guest bedroom. And that's where I'd always get the weirdest feelings. And I mean, there were even a couple times where like, I wouldn't say I saw anything, but like the bathroom door, it was like one of those old style doors. So it had like the little glass, you know, like window panels in it. But then we had like the privacy glass that like that you just stick on that makes it look, all like muffled or whatever, so you can't see in. But there'd be times where like you could be looking out and the light would be out, but you'd see like something move by or like a shadow. But you just kind of think, oh well, it's nighttime. You don't think anything of it really. But I get these weird feelings, and we had some family friends. This guy, his name was Jerk2. And
wow,
he's Mongolian. He's actually a direct descendant of Genghis Khan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and he is a I don't know what his not a shaman, but he's some sort of like a Mongolian kind of like soothsayer or spirit, some sort of a spirit man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this was years after my dad had lived at the house. Or been living. My dad lived in the house for several years before he came to the house, and he stayed up in that room one night, and he said that he was up all night because there were multiple spirits in that room that kept talking to him and stuff.
Oh wow!
And he ended up doing a couple of chants and a couple of ceremonies, and supposedly released them.
Oh.
You know what I mean? But it's just weird because it was that thing. And this goes all the way back to like we were talking about with the third eye. By this time now, I was older, so I get those weird feelings, but I never really had that direct contact or that direct meeting, so to speak. But it was confirmation when we actually had somebody that was in tune with the spiritual side come in and said that there were several spirits up there. And then all of a sudden I'm like, fuck, I knew it. You know what I mean? It's like, I fucking knew it. But again, you get those things, you get the weird feelings, you just kind of get out of the room fast, or you just walk.
So that's why you took the other room.
Yeah.
Right?
So I like the room the other one was a little bigger, or the one I was in was bigger. But yeah, that room was, one of my brothers stayed in that room for a while. Actually, two of them at different times. But man, you never know. I mean, I think just overall, spirits or what happens to us after we pass away.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really knows for sure.
What's up with like empty rooms and stuff always being the vortexes for that shit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know.
even I had a room upstairs in my old house that I always it was always questionable to me, because at one time I had my office was the room that was on the other side, and it was linked the Jack and Jill bathroom, and it was the bedroom on the other side, and I always felt uneasy in that room or walking by that room. And I had my for that brief time that my nephew was staying with us, he was staying in that room too. And he's always had issues, with spiritual issues, like. I've been told, I've heard that there's a spirit that's constantly following him, but that was before he came in the room.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I don't know. Now I can't say for certain that I felt weird about that room before he stayed there or not.
Right. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, you get like those fleeting moments of the feeling, where like it comes and it goes. And now it's so much different. When I was a kid, I was definitely more in tune with it, the feeling. I mean, and there's other times too where I could say maybe I'd seen ghosts, but it's stuff that happens so fast. You see something and then, you look back and it's not there.
I think I'm glad to say that my whole adult life, I've never had a spiritual or that kind of experience, supernatural experience.
Yeah, I had not too long ago at my house, which I've never had any weird thing at my house, but I had a kind of an incident not too long ago at the house where I was laying in the bed, like Kim had fallen asleep, the girls were on the couch, everybody's asleep, and I'm upstairs, and I was in the bed and I'm upstairs just laying there, and I heard it sounded like either somebody closed the door or was walking up the stairs or whatever. But then I didn't hear anything else. So I didn't think anything of it. And a couple minutes later, I swear I felt someone just like touched my back like that.
Oh shit!
And I was like, "Ooh!" And nobody was there. You know what I mean? And I sat up in my room for a second, and I'm like looking around and everything. And I was like, "Okay, now what the fuck?" And maybe that was just like one of those mental things, where
I don't know,
you have
man.
that mental feel, and maybe a fleck of dust, something touched me at the right. I don't know what it
like
was, but
seeing something or hearing something, I think you can see that. But if you felt something
I mean, it
physical,
literally
that's-
felt like someone just touched me, and I just fucking shot around. Nobody was there. But again, I've never had that. I've never had an issue ever at the house. Chloe, now I don't know how much of it is being a kid or not, but even at the old house and at this house, not so much now, but they try to, like, if they can sleep downstairs, they do it all the time if they can. But Chloe has always been worried about the witch in her closet.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
like
freaky, man.
ever since she was a little girl. This, and she like can tell, she could like describe it to you.
Oh,
Yeah, like
really?
it's an old lady with gray hair, and she's like this little old lady.
Still till this day.
Yeah, and I haven't asked her about the witch lady in a while, but yeah, she used to be adamant about it. So like she'd have to sleep with the closet door closed.
Yeah.
Or actually no, I think she wanted it open because when it was closed, she could hear the witch lady. But if it was open, as long as it was open, the lights were on or something, the witch lady wouldn't be there. But
when was the last time she talked about her?
Man, you know what? I mean, she's even talked about her at this house, but it's been a while. I mean, we've been at this house now. It'll be 6 years this summer.
Wow.
So maybe a year or two, something like that. I need to ask her about it now, man. I need to go back and ask her about the witch lady.
Yeah. I mean, so how much of that is just held on to fears?
Yeah,
right?
See, and that's what I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
or is it that she's actually seeing something? Now, I don't doubt that maybe she did see something at the other house, and it scared, I guess, kind of scarred her.
Ingrained it.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, and, kind of like you were saying with your nephew, a spirit following him around or whatever it might be. I mean, some people are just way more receptive to it than others.
Right.
Some people, like, I feel like the times that I experienced it, it was situational.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were in an experience. I was at a place where it happened. Not necessarily like spirits are following me around. You know
Right.
what I mean? But again, some people, like you're saying, certain places are like vortexes or hotbeds for it. Certain people just their third eye is that strong or that open where it kind of attracts. And what is it? Is it like a spirit searching for a way for their exit, or
I don't like
searching for? Are those people just like a communication beacon?
right.
You know what I mean?
It's kind of like that movie Ghost, right? Where Whoopi Goldberg,
Yeah,
It's the medium.
fake psychic, becomes a medium.
yeah.
I think that they might have a way of telling if you can see them, hear them, or whatever, interact with them.
Right. I had another time too when I was a kid. My parents being divorced, so my dad lived in Oklahoma City, my mom lived in Norman, and I'd go to my dad's every other weekend. And we had a summer party or something, and my dad had his family friend or his friends over and their kids. It was all the same kids I hung out with as a kid. And so one day we were playing with this night of the party we were playing with the Ouija board in my bedroom, right? And, like we used to do that a bit, and we'd always, you start out and it seems real serious, but then before you know it, one of the kids, you're fucking moving it, man, and everybody starts bagging on him, and then the Ouija board ends up being thrown, and then we're off to doing whatever the fuck else, who knows. But this one night particularly, like, we were trying to do it real serious, and turned all the lights off in my room, and we're doing it and stuff, and honestly, like, that wasn't the significant part at all. We played with the Ouija board. We got ourselves freaked out a little bit. Whatever, okay? The freaky part to me, though, was after that happened, my dad took me back home. So I was back at my mom's, and he went out of town for business. He's a landman. He worked in the oil business. So he went out of town for work, and he came back into town. And he ended up telling me the next time he picked me up to take me back to his house a couple weekends later, he's like, you know, it was the weirdest thing. He's like, I got back from being out of town, and when I went into your room, all of your posters that were on the wall were all on the floor.
What?
Yeah. And I was like, huh? You know what I mean?
Wow.
And now I don't know, maybe he knew we had been playing with the Ouija board and he just said that to fuck with me. But I don't really think he was saying it just to fuck with me, you know what I mean? But that was another one of those moments where it was like, you know, maybe you fucked around with something or played with something a little more than you should have.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
because that's very real too, you know what I mean? There's some fucking real shit out there that is better left unsaid or better left unexplained, I guess.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Don't go exploring, kids.
If you ever go back to the woolly swamp. Yeah, man, I tell you what. You know, there's just some things in this world you can't explain. Man.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, let's take a break, huh?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I think so. Good
I
time.
think it's a good idea.
Yeah, always good. Well,
30 minutes.
fuck, guys, another episode.
The freaky episode.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I imagine we'll probably pull out more this along the line sometime.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
think
but
this was a fun subject.
I
man.
was good.
Better than the current events.
We're gonna start anytime once we start getting guests in. That's gonna be like one of the questions I'm gonna ask them.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Ghost story.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah.
And then if you do, go. You know what I mean? Well, all right, guys. Another episode, Tomato Cans.
Later, kids.
Peace.
Peace.